What's up? What's up? What's up, folks? How are you doing? I have clearly been away for a little while because I am on holiday break, like I hope the rest of you are. And in case you don't know, I'm Lee Black, the host of Real Talk for Real Men. And yes, I have been MIA over the past few weeks. So I hope you're having a great holiday season. Hopefully, everybody had a safe and happy Thanksgiving for sure. And I hope you have a great rest of your holiday season. If you don't know, my show, Real Talk for Real Men, is on hiatus until to be determined in 2026. But of course, as I mentioned, from time to time, I will pop in whenever the mood so hits me to be able to share what views I want to talk about on the things that are important to me. So, what are we going to talk about tonight, folks? I decided to come and share my views on the Sean Diddy Combs documentary called The Reckoning. And so I am definitely, I watched it and I wanted to be able to come forward and give my personal views because I'm an opinionated SOB. I see we got the super fan checking me out. Cece, I love you. Thank you for checking me out. And right off the bat, you say, hey, Lee, are we going to disagree on this? LOL. That may be entirely possible, CC, for sure. With that said, that is okay. Let me start by saying first and foremost that the views that I'm about to express belong to me, Lee Black, and Lee Black alone. They are exclusively my own. They do not necessarily reflect the views of the panel from my show on a regular basis. So any of the normal family members, they are absolutely entitled to have their own view. This is my view. I want to be clear. And as always, anytime I share my view on any of my topics, whether it's on a show or any commentary, I always operate under the simple principle that we can agree to disagree without being disagreeable. And that's why I have loved my audience for so long. And that's because I have, for the large part, been able to navigate the most controversial topics without it ever getting out of hand. And I hope this is the case. So I'm not here to argue with anybody, but let me share my view. So full disclosure, I had no intention of watching the Sean Diddy Combs documentary, none. Because for me, from the very outset, I thought it was going to be a hit piece. It was clearly executive produced by 50 Cent, who, if you don't be living under a rock, that is an adversary of Diddy. He calls him his number one villain. So with that being said, I really had no interest, and I normally don't even watch documentaries like that because for me, I already go into it knowing it's going to be biased and lopsided, things like that. Not to mention the fact that was I going to learn anything new? But one of my good friends shared with me how great and well it was made and gave me some tidbits from their perspective. And I said, you know what, I'm going to watch it. Cece said, I'm so glad I found your channel. It's informative. So absolutely. Toria, super fan, another super fan, can't stay long, but stopped in for a minute or two. God bless you. Thank you for popping in, both of you. I love you. You've been the biggest supporters of my platform. So, okay. And Cece says hello. So I decided to watch this last night and finish it up today so that I could give my own personal view. Let me state a couple of things right off the bat. It is very well made, done very, very well as far as documentaries goes, which I expected that because it's on the Netflix platform. And in case you don't know, it is getting tremendous amount of play, views. The ratings are through the roof. A lot of people are really loving it. How you doing, Black Noise? So yeah, it's absolutely doing exactly what Netflix intended it to be. Now let's get to it. If you haven't seen this yet, I'm not going to give away any secrets. And so this is me not advocating for or against watching it. That is entirely up to you. For some of you, you may not even give a fuck about it. You know, this is going to be my definitive time to actually speak on this whole PDD situation because I have largely come to the conclusion that I don't give a fuck. The trial is over. It is what it is. And we're entitled to believe whatever you want to believe. You know, so I'm doing great, Black Noise. Toria says, I'm not watching the Line documentary. 50 jealous ass Netflix did barely roll out. So, okay. Toria, right off the bat, let me share with you. Let's not keep any mystique. For my opinion, it is a hit piece from beginning to end. It is biased in every possible way. It literally starts out with P. Diddy in a hotel room at the Hyatt, and he's recorded himself. For those of you who don't know the backstory, P. Diddy has hired a team to film him, and Cece says she liked it. So that's great. I love it. So he has hired someone to film him. We are finding out, for the most part, that this documentary was leaked and sold to Netflix primarily because P. Diddy did not pay the videographer. And through the course of this documentary, we are told that that is largely his practice, to work with people and not pay them what they were worth, pay them at all. He was a bully, a tyrant. He pretty much wanted to control every aspect of their lives, all while exacting punishment on people. And he's this truly horrible individual that ruled with an iron thumb, with violence, intimidation, things like that. Toria says, just like the R. Kelly Lifetime Lies. Anybody who knows me, I love R. Kelly. I'm always going to be a fan. I've never watched that documentary because I, again, believe that it's biased. Let's talk about how this opens up. He's in a hotel room, and I'm going to use some of his words. He's on the phone having a conversation with what appears to be his attorney, and he's talking about how we are losing the war. He says, things are happening, and I'm going to fight for my life. I'm going to fight for justice, to not be guilty. I want to be able to have a life to live. This is how the documentary begins. And he's telling this attorney that, hey, we are not on the same page. You know, I need you to find someone who's the dirtiest of dirty to be able to fight this war, because where you guys seem to think that we're doing okay, he's saying to them, this is the opening scene. He's letting them know that you may not be in tune with the TikTok audience, the Instagram, because he says we are losing. So I love the fact that he's caught on camera acknowledging that this information is building towards something bigger, and he's fighting for his life. And like anybody I would imagine in that situation, he's talking to his attorney and letting them know that we've got to do something different. That's where, for me, folks, it begins to take a true slant, because we are then introduced to a host of characters who, in my opinion, are disgruntled and clearly have an axe to grind. We meet Kalina Harper, a former Bad Boy artist, who in this documentary, we find out that she did not know that she had been sexually assaulted, but was told this by someone. And through this, she reads a letter that her mom wrote to Mr. and Mrs. Combs. The letter, if you catch it in a documentary, is actually dated long after Puffy's daddy has been dead. You do the math. We also get a snippet from Aubrey Day, one of his former artists, and she's widely known to have a disgruntled. She has an axe to grind because she felt like she didn't get paid, treated right, and she's asserted on many occasions that he treated her horrible. Even though in the video, she acknowledges from the very beginning how he was a great person. She wanted to be like him. She was willing to follow him. We meet Eric Sermon from EPMD, who in my opinion is a jilted artist, and in his own words, goes on to describe how basically P. Diddy took his woman. We also get snippets from Albie Shore, and if you don't know the story there, Albie Shore was initially dating Kim Porter. Puffy took his woman, not to mention raised his biological son. Folks, I hope I'm painting a picture here that from the very outset, episode 1, not even 20 minutes in, we are being given a picture from people who have an axe to grind, who have an agenda, and have a reason to speak negatively. And then in large part, we are now, we get Roger Bonds, a former security guard. Notice all these things, former. And then, of course, we get the co-founder of Bad Boy Records himself, Kirk Burroughs, and he in large part is truly driving the narrative of what he believes, and he states in this, it's his theory. In every assertion that he makes, they cover themselves by plastering, after they make the most salacious things, they cover themselves by noting that P. Diddy vehemently denies all of this. For example, they state that in this documentary, they insinuate that Puffy, P. Diddy, is responsible for the death of Pac and Biggie. They literally paint Pac, in my opinion, as some saint. They gloss over his entire thug persona, and they make it as if that he was the big brother to Biggie, and that Puffy was his jealousy over that particular relationship was so heightened to the level that he wanted not only Pac dead, that he was instrumental in the death of Biggie, as if he was some jilted lover himself. But again, they're careful to note that this is unfounded. Now, of course, Biggie can't speak. He's dead. Puffy can't speak. Pac can't speak. He's dead. The estate of Biggie has already come out and said that much of this that they've said was not accurate. They literally state that at Biggie's funeral, Puffy was going to pay for all of the services and make it the biggest funeral ever. But when he found out the cost, that he some kind of way passed this on to the family because he didn't want to do that. Biggie's estate come forward and say that is absolutely inaccurate. Let's keep it a secret. Hi, my name is Kaka. What's yours? So I am Lee Black Kaka. Welcome to the platform. Tori said, that's a damn lie. He did not kill either one of them. I'm like you, Tori. I never, and for me, there was nothing I've seen in all 4 of these episodes that remotely came close to any proof, in my personal estimation, to say that Puffy had anything to do with Pac's death, Biggie's death, but they insinuate this throughout the entire journey. They even go to Puffy's backstory, to Diddy's backstory, and the co-founder, again, Mr. Kirk Burroughs, who was a childhood friend, takes you through how he befriended Puffy as a kid, and he paints this picture of Puffy and his mother, Diddy, I should call him for the sake of this commentary, how Diddy and his mother were, how he was raised, because for those of you who don't know, Diddy's dad was killed, and they insinuate that his father was some kind of drug dealer or leading some kind of life. So, of course, then Diddy was being raised as a small child, with a single parent, but in the life that the mom only drove Cadillacs. She threw these lavish parties, and they insinuate throughout the documentary that this is where all of this begins. His dressing dandy, as they put it, because the mom dressed him in fancy coats, things of that nature. And some kind of way, this is supposed to make us understand that Diddy is bisexual because of maybe this. Throughout the documentary, you get a glimpse of the theory on his use of the baby oil. Of course, they touch on the Cassidy situation. They're careful not to disparage Kim Porter in any way. They again paint Pac in the most favorable light. And they're careful in that this is an orchestrated hit piece, in my personal opinion, to make sure that Diddy is painted as the villain. Even the opening scenes where they showing him doing business as an executive, where he's slamming the phone down and yelling, fuck this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. They want to make sure to paint the picture early and often that this is a violent man who had to have everything his way. They even assert that the beginning of him becoming Diddy or Puffy happened because of a tragic incident, whereas Puffy was an intern working for Andre Harrell, that because Puffy threw a free concert at City College in New York, and he overhyped it and promoted it, according to them, that it caused the death of 9 individuals. And the publicity behind this, where Puffy stood before the cameras and took the blame, saying that this should have never happened and that he would never this happen, some kind of way that is translated to the fact that he is a monster. And according to this documentary, that was the beginning of the Diddy era. The Kirk Douglas Burroughs proceeds to say that from that point on, that's when some imaginary switch happened in Sean's life, where he now became a brand, and he was unwilling to stop at anything, and even slapped and hit his mom, because nothing was going to stand in his way for him to get to the top, because they had already planted the seeds that as an intern, he would do any and everything to be noticed. Now, folks, again, I am not advocating in any way for or against you watching this documentary. I truly believe that people fall on either one side or the other when it comes to Sean P. Diddy Combs. If you are anxious to believe that he is a violent, narcissistic abuser, sex crazed addict, this is going to help in that cause because you are willing to suspend all of the bullshit and say, yes, that makes sense to me. If you're in my camp and you choose to believe that thus far, I have not heard one scintilla of information or evidence, more importantly, to suggest that he is any different than many powerful, rich people. I walk away from this still feeling like Cassie is a hoe, a participating hoe. I walk away from this feeling like the people that spoke against this, they are a big part of what's wrong with the Me Too movement. If the federal government brought a case against him with all of the evidence they collected, and they completely assassinated this man's character long before it ever went to trial. Because if you were like me, you sat with bated breath waiting to hear evidence that he fucked men, women, children, and even beasts. That never happened. In fact, the jury of his peers actually acquitted him of all of those charges. He is sitting in prison right now doing prison time because of trafficking sex workers. Even though these sex workers were adult of their free mind, body, clear conscience, selected by Cassie. He didn't do the selecting. She did the choosing, paid the money, and let them know exactly what was going to happen. Now, if you want to accuse Puffy of being a freak, that's fine. I accept that. If his freakness, things of choice is baby oil, I accept that. Whether that's rational to your mind or not, that's you're entitled to your opinion. You know, when I fuck these nasty, filthy, no good bitches, I too have used baby oil. It's a hell of a lot cheaper than buying the stuff at the sex store. And again, it greases up my dick just fine to slide in their nasty head and tail. I personally like getting my dick sucked with either Halls throat lozenges in their mouth, or they can use Jolly Rancher candy. I have over 10 bags of Halls throat lozenges in my drawer right now. Are you going to start calling me lozenge man or the Hall guy? Or you're going to make jokes about Jolly Rancher? I don't know. That's what I like. That's how I freak. That's how I get down. I have thus far not heard any single thing that makes me think any different of him in this position. The footage that they showed of him, how he ran Bad Boy, was he a hard boss? Was he even in ways wrong? Possibly. But if you're thinking that this is some independent way that he did that no other body did that, I have a bridge to sell you. Motown Records is probably the most famous record label in our history, in our cultural history. And they literally have a special on called The Making of Motown. Beautiful, great story. It's literally told and narrated by the founder, Berry Gordy himself, along with Smokey Robinson, who many might consider the co-founder. That was his best friend, still is, and they made this documentary. And of course, throughout the documentary, we get to hear the rise of the label and the systematic way that he went about doing business. And we also get to hear from Stevie Wonder. We get to hear from various artists, you know, and they talk about the Motown story. But folks, if you believe that there was only happy, great Disney-esque stories in the making of Motown, then you can't be too bright. You have to know that there are probably dozens, maybe hundreds of artists whose career didn't go as far as they believe it should have gone, who didn't make the money they believe that they should be entitled to, that they signed deals that was lopsided towards the record label. Folks, that didn't just happen in the 50s, 60s, in the 80s and 90s. Megan Thee Stallion recently won a lawsuit against her record label for the very same thing. That has happened from the beginning of time of how record labels are orchestrated, how record deals are signed. R. Kelly should probably be the most richest artist in history, but he signed a 10-record deal with Jive Records where he doesn't own his masters, and because he don't have the money, it is what it is. Many times artists are starving for fame to get put on, that they are willing to voluntarily sign these record contracts many times without reading them. And after they understand what they've signed and now they're in it and they recognize that they or believe they should be making more, then it becomes a problem. Even in this documentary, Kirk Burroughs talks about the founding of Bad Boy Records and how after he was dismissed from Uptown Records, he was given $1.5 million as compensation for helping start. Well, if you look at the documentary, he looks broke as a fucking joke. My question is, what'd you do with your money? He talks about how he wrote everything down and how he was over the funds, this, that, and the other. Well, here we are. Why was Diddy able to rise to the top in the same way Jay-Z was able to outlast, outperform, outlive Dame Dash? And once again, here we are in hindsight, retrospect, 20, 30 years later, disgruntled ones coming forward saying, I didn't get what was due to me. It's spilled milk. Folks, this doesn't only happen in the business world. It happens every fucking day. Many people in their normal lives, everyday ordinary people, interview for a job. They accept the position. They say whatever they need to say on the interview and get hired. Only to find out after they've been hired that the person sitting next to them in a cubicle, across the room, down the hall, upstairs, downstairs, is doing the exact same job that they're doing and getting paid more. What's fair, folks, is what the fuck you negotiate. I work a job right now that absolutely positively does not pay me what I'm worth, but it's what I negotiated. So I agreed to show my fat black ass up every single day and do my job to the best of my ability because that is what I negotiated. I'm not angry with the person across the room that makes more than me, and I'm not angry with the company that gave me the salary that I agreed to. I detest people who, in retrospect, want to go back and believe that they are owed anything than what they did. You know what? At the time you was in Bad Boy, and that label has largely been defunct for over 20 years, that you're coming forward now in 2025 to talk about what did or didn't happen. The young lady named Kalina Harper, she says that she was told she was raped. She doesn't remember it, but she was told that there was footage. And so, of course, her mom found her crying, according to her story now. And now she's feeling some kind of way. And she was sick to her stomach by going to Times Square and seeing a big storied poster of Diddy holding his fists up, conquering the world. And for that, you're angry with him. And I guess you're going to go through the rest of your life thinking that he did something to you. Let's forget the fact that you're all sloppy and fat now and ain't nobody willing to give you dick. But you're not talking about when you was actually young and fit and you was making videos. So as long as you was making videos, getting the fame part, traveling in luxury, it was okay. It's only now some 30-something years later when you look at your miserable fucking life and you realize that I think I deserve more. The guy that was last on Diddy's album, okay, you talk about that you believe you were sexually assaulted. I'm of the mind that no man is going to get fucked and groped or whatever and wait any length of time if he got any kind of fucking true ethics and integrity about himself. But you believe that happened to you, but you still continue to work on this album and you allege that he didn't pay you, but you still continue to work. Folks, in this documentary, time after time after time after time, the very people who claim he was a monster and a tyrant and wanted to control every life, they also acknowledge that they continue to work and perform and be with him by his side. You can't have it both ways, people. For me, again, if you want to see a documentary just to be entertained, it's that. It's Netflix. It's very well made. It's spiced with nice songs, so you get to see the Uptown era. It talks about a time when I grew up. For those of you who may not know, I grew up in Harlem, New York at the very time this was all happening. Many of you may not know that I know Sean Diddy Combs personally. I literally hung out in that time every day at one point with Heavy D and the boys, Al B. Shore, Run DMC, Dougie Fresh. I know these people personally. I was there in the moment before fame hit them. I was there. I partied at Rooftop. They allege that the gangster Alpo, and if you're from New York, you will know who Alpo and AZ is because their story was highlighted in Paid to Fold, the movie. I was there, folks. I'll be 58 years old. These aren't things that I'm unfamiliar with. I grew up in that same era. And so if you want to demonize Puffy because was raised by a single mom who doted on her son and had the means back in the 80s and 90s to make sure he dressed in nice clothes, are we saying that about mothers now? How many mothers out there right now make sure that their child, especially if their only child, looks the best that they can give them? Is it not the right of any parent to want to make sure that they lavish on their child, whatever? Now, if you're telling me that some kind of way that burned into his psyche and turned him into a monster, why am I not a monster? I've said to people who listen to my platform, many of the things that Puffy's accused of, I'm keeping it funky with you. I've done many of those things. I've pissed on bitches. I've slept with, midgets, women with no arms, no legs. Right now, somewhere in the ether, there's video out there, things I've done that here we are 30 years later, I wouldn't be so proud of. But in that moment, it was what it was. And I can also tell you, nobody's arm was twisted. No guns were pulled out. No threats were made. Every sexual encounter that I've ever had was involuntary. I own it. I live with it. Now, some of those things are decisions I made back then. Yeah, in hindsight, now being older, wiser, we live in a different world now. There are things that are just done differently. But I'm sorry, I just don't come to the conclusion of watching Sean Diddy Combs' The Reckoning that he's some monster. I just don't get there, folks. And I'm going to say again, if you want to believe this, it's going to help in that regard. I have a simple saying that I live my life by. A person is smart and people are very stupid. Now, be quick now. I'm not trying to call anybody stupid, but I'm only saying that groupthink is a powerful thing. And if you want to believe something, this documentary gives you license to do so. Let me take a few comments here. Toria says, Cassie is no victim. All I seen her on the stand saying she had sex with other men by her so he could watch. Since when is it against the law to watch? Why are we in people's bedroom? Couldn't agree with you more, Toria. Again, she picked the men. She set the deals. She exchanged the money. And if I'm a sex worker and I'm getting called to do a job, to do one thing, and I'm told when I get there, we're going to pay you 2-3 times that amount, and I'm going to get the fuck an attractive woman and be as nasty as I want to be with her. Oh, but by the way, her boyfriend wants to watch. Do you think I give a fuck whether he wants to smear baby all over himself? Or he could rub peanut butter all over himself, as far as I care. If I'm a sex worker, I'm with it anyway. Because my only thing at that point would be, as long as I ain't got to fuck him. And there was nothing that came out in this trial that in any way indicated that the sex workers fucked Puffy or that he fucked them. But here we are accusing him of being this, that, and the other, and it just didn't come out. Cece says, I'm going to reserve my opinions on this. And that's the smart way to do it, Cece. Watch it and come to your own conclusion, whatever that looks like. And you are entitled to feel completely different than I do. Toria says, how about we see what Barry did, LA Face Records did, and the old white man Clive Davis. I say again, if we thinking that Puffy ran his label any way different than what's run in any normal business, don't have to be the music industry. Do you think for one moment that in any major business that the head of that company, the CEO from Amazon, from Microsoft, does really anything different? Come on, people, grow up. Tori says, record labels always were their stupid damn days where record labels made all the money and they make money on tour. And why people think OJ's Eyes, these Keith Sweat Temptations still touring. Thank you very much. But again, you don't see these individuals going back saying that they were mistreated. Yeah, they signed maybe bad deals and they didn't get paid. They have a history of music where they don't own their masters, but it is what it is. And they making that money now. Toria says, Cece, I understand, sweetheart. It's quite okay that we have difference of opinion. That's what makes the world beautiful. We can do that. that will not stop me from loving you. Same here. I said at the beginning, we can agree without being disagreeable, and that's okay. That's what makes us special, and that's what makes us different. CC says, at Toria, of course, it isn't personal. I just have some differences of opinion. That's what I've loved about this platform. It has always shined a light on anyone being able to come to my platform and say, Lee, I don't agree with you. And as long as you stand on your opinion, not only do I respect it, I love you for it, because I respect individuals that are independent thinkers. The one thing I can tell you, working in education, true education is recognizing just how much you don't know. A degree doesn't mean shit. It only means that you have an education in that one specific area. I'm in a doctoral program right now. If I come out the other side, I will have a level of expertise in that one specific area. Doesn't mean I know everything. There's many things I don't know a motherfucking thing about, and I'm okay with that. And I'm still entitled to give my opinion because that's who I am. Toria says, think about it. Why do you all think that Netflix did not do very much advertising this documentary? Again, they're about the money part, which lastly is going to bring me to talk about 50 Cent. I've always been able to separate a person from the art. I love the content that 50 produces. I think he's brilliant. I think he's on his way to being the next Tyler Perry. Right now, as we speak, he's building the same type of studio that Tyler Perry did in Louisiana. Smart move. He's a smart guy. I love his music. He'll never be muted. As an individual, I despise him. And I, for one, believe karma is a bitch. He's so quick to point fingers, to shed light, and to denigrate his own, but he remains largely silent on the others. And I see that way too much. Oprah Winfrey, billionaire, was all too happy to help produce the Leaving Neverland Ranch to denigrate Michael Jackson. Her best friend, Gail, was all too great to showcase R. Kelly in his worst possible light. But these people have a platform that they never said anything about. Elvis Presley moving in Priscilla when she was 14. Jerry Lee Lewis marrying his cousin at 13. John Wayne being a fucking vile racist. So is Charlton Heston, who is Moses in my favorite movie of all time. See, I can separate the man from the art. So I'll continue to watch content that 50 Cent puts out if I like it. And I also know how to turn the channel when I don't like it. But as a person, I think it's widely despicable that he is behind this because it's about money. Now, I don't stop his right to make money. Some people are willing to do whatever, but I'm only questioning his motives. I don't believe the documentary. And I do believe that karma is a bitch with wheels on. And when it comes for you, you'll get no sympathy from me. So in either case, folks, I just wanted to pop in to speak from the mind of myself. And again, these are my thoughts. You don't have to agree. I'm not even asking you to. If anything, please form your own opinion, and you're welcome to share those with me. And if you do so in an articulate, intelligent way, I will always listen. You might even change my mind on some things. I'm open like that. Having said that, I am done with the whole Sean Puffy Combs P. Diddy scenario one way or the other. Because for me, as we look towards the end of 2025, in the grand scheme of things, I don't even give a fuck. I got much more important things to think about. I am cleaning out my year. For those who don't know, I do a simple thing that I've been doing for over 30 years. I go through my phone, I go through my contacts, and I evaluate my entire year. And I realize there are people that need to go away. Some relationships just no longer aren't viable. Others, due to circumstances, and not always bad, I need to remove for my peace and sanity. I put under stock every facet of my life from January 1st as we get to the end of the year. and I take an assessment of my financial, emotional, physical, spiritual, mental state. And I ask myself, am I better off as I end this year than when I started? The things I need to adjust, I do so. That's how I keep moving forward, folks. The folks that still need to be in my life and have a viable place, I do so. I have far less time ahead of me than I have behind me. And last time I checked, there are only 24 hours in a day, and I no longer have the patience and tolerance to tolerate bullshit from nonsense and foolishness. So I'm not going to argue with anybody over my view. If you want to argue, argue with your mama. Don't argue with me. But you are welcome to share your opinion. Cece says, I respect you too much, Lee, to speak on this. Much love always. Thank you, Cece. Thank you, Toria. Thank you to the new people popping in. Check my platform. For those of you who go behind and watch this, share your views. I am an open book and I welcome open dialogue. Anyway, I am going to go back to drinking my Paul Masson pineapple with cranberry juice. I got my nephew visiting from out of town. We're going to hit these streets and possibly chase these nasty 50 no good bitches down. And who knows, I might get a chance to use my whole throat lozenges on some of these bitches tonight. So, all right. God bless you. Have a safe rest of your holiday season. And until something gets under my skin again, peace and love. Have a good one.